Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Every once in a while, we have to bring out the big dog.
Yeah.
Oh, God help us. It's time for Danny Unleashed. Sponsored by Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. Go to eastonroofing.com for more.
You got the big summer storms coming through. If they're ripping some damage to your roof, you're finding out that trees, they can be ripped up, fall over, damage your roof. Call Easton Roofing. Joe Spiker and his great team will be happy to help you out. 913-257-5426. Many forms of financing available. That's right. They've got different lenders competing, unlike most roofing companies that offer one and one only finance option. Many financing options available with Easton Roofing. So if you've got a roof that needs to be replaced or repaired, but don't necessarily have all the cash right now, talk to Joe Spiker and his team about getting it financed. 913-257-5426. No payment collected until you're 100% satisfied. Angie's List Super Service Award winner, the best in the business, the folks that fixed my roof are Easton Roofing. Find them online at eastonroofing.com. Danny, how are you?
Doing just fine. I woke up this morning to see shadows. I was stunned. I mean, the sun.
What is that thing in the sky?
Yellow orb in the sky.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had actually some fleeting moments where it got
Sunny-ish. Yeah.
before it got pitch dark and rainy again. So it's been a little depressing.
The standing puddles around town just they speak to how wet it's been here of late. It's nice. A little sunshine, a little warmth.
Yes.
A little
absolutely.
heat.
Absolutely.
Danny, may I ask you a question?
You may.
Thank you.
I am an open book.
Perfect. Why is it when you came into the studio and closed the door, did you then get up and go and open the door
He thinks
again?
it's too cold in here.
No,
Is that why you have that door open?
I thought it would bring a little warm air in. That's why I did it.
I'm going to make yourself at home. I'm glad you're comfortable.
Well, there are a couple things at play here. First of all, yes, I'll make myself comfortable. I don't have any issue with that.
No.
Secondly, I heard Sam McDowell the other day freezing his buns off.
It's 63.5 in here.
It's 4 degrees warmer than it was when Sam was here.
Yeah.
Right. So
I don't think that's accurate
It's
either.
more of
It does get chilly in here. This is not one of the colder moments.
No,
So over
it's
here
not.
it says 68.
this is more of a preemptive strike.
Okay.
This is just because I'm just so chill.
Yeah.
No,
Okay.
Yeah.
not one bit.
No. So anyway, I'm doing just great.
Are you?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Just like most of the area sports news.
Yeah, right. Chipper.
On the upbeat.
In the wood chipper, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the toilet, perhaps. What you got anything you want to chime in about the old
ball
local
club?
9, the old ball club?
You know, I did think of something yesterday. I was settling down for lunch, and the game started at noon, so I was DVRing ahead, and I caught up, and there was Irvin Santana pitching, and this was before he got cuffed around, and I was sitting there thinking, what the hell is he doing on this team? I mean, really? I mean, what is this a retirement home? And this is
Wade Davis and Irvin Santana. People throw Greg Holland in there. Holland's been better than that.
He's especially of late, he's been a little bit better. He's been serviceable. I mean,
he's been
not
a serviceable
He's not
reliever.
been. But I guess the point for me is,
But I mean, ideally, he's your last guy. The way relievers can just blow people away now, he should be kind of your last guy.
right? And Santana, I'm sorry if they don't have somebody else who's young who they can at least look at when the game's out of hand, which is really the only time that Irvin Santana pitches. Then I think it makes a statement. It's kind of the same thing as, okay, he hit a few bombs on the road trip, but Ryan O'Hearn? Huh?
Well, what was it 3 weeks ago? Curtis's line.
Right, if I have to see the two
If
Ryans.
I have to see the Ryans drag their bats to the plate anymore.
Drag their 180 ass
180
to the plate again.
Their bats and 180
Now, I'm
hitting
sure the
ass
people
to
out there saying, I think he hit 4 home runs on
He
the
did.
trip
He's
or
had a hell of
something.
a week.
He did, but
did, and-
I guess that's not really the point.
Yeah, Ryan O'Hearn.
Right
is
now, sometimes
the
they have a
problem. The fact
lineup
that-
out there that you're like, this looks, unfortunately, like those Royals teams where there'd be, a never was and a has been out there. And why? it's supposed to be a youthful team on the rise.
Well, they crashed hard. And I'm going to come back and I think, listen, I'm okay if the organization, if John Sherman in the front office wants to stay the course with Dayton Moore to a point where you go, okay, now it's clear that it's not coming, right? I'm okay with that because Dayton Moore, I think, has earned it by building a world championship.
But it's got to be on the table by now.
It about firing Moore?
Or at least
Would it be on the table with you? Because it wouldn't be on the table with me yet.
not. I think it's got to be in your purview.
I think if you wanted to say we're going to start putting some mile markers out there that need to be met, I think we're at that point. Like, it's not just like, hey, fill me in on what's up. It's like, okay, listen, by this year, we need to be where. Tell me where we're going to be by this year. Tell me where we're going to be with this player. Tell me, like, I want some things that I can now start saying, okay, you didn't do this, you didn't do this, you didn't do this. Like, I'm okay with that, being like, we're going to set some standards. I've always said that, before a season, right, which if you're giving down the road stuff, it's before those seasons. But if you're like, listen, we need to have a winning record by 23, and we need to be in the playoffs by 24. Okay? And if you wanted to make that 22 and 23. If I think, 4 years, one COVID, is enough to where, like, okay, we need to see tangible results, and we're going to quantify it. And, if you say, hey, I need...
And you are on the nice side of it because you give them a little more credit for the 2 years after the championship than I do. Those were mediocre years of baseball. Okay, they were.
They were, but they were in the mix. They were professionally played years.
They were.
That, things went wrong. I always felt like, and I said this in 14, I always felt like they were a team that was poorly constructed to win regular season baseball games. But if they could cobble enough together to get into the postseason, they were absolutely built to win postseason games. And I said that, listen, in 14 when they got a little bit hot and people were starting to get excited, I said, well, I don't know if they're going to get there, but if they get there, they're going to be tough because they make contact and they can blow people away at the back of the game. And so when you can start stretching those relievers out in the day, and that ended up being the case, right? So, but I always saw them as, I don't know if they can get there. Like everybody else saw the 95 or 6 win team and went, oh, this is what they really are. No, that year it just all went right.
Right, and they were a hot, confident team that had something to prove because they came so very close to winning it. And it's not downgrading them, but it was a great moment in time where you had this time in baseball where at that moment in time was as the home run was as unimportant as it's been in 20 years, maybe. It was flat. I mean, home run hitting was a little bit flat, and then they juiced the ball after that. So it was a good time to have the style of team they had.
The big market teams were kind of on a reset,
right?
Which is what has to happen for small market teams to win. So people like going like, well, this was happening. Like, yes, that's like if Missouri wins the SEC, 15 years later, you're going to, in football I'm talking, you're going to look back and you're going to be like, yeah, but Nick Saban, remember he had that heart attack or whatever.
Even their division titles are timed around the big boys of their division. Yeah,
exactly. Kirby Smart
Nebraska,
took the Jags
K-State.
or took the Dolphins job, and there's going to be a perfect storm that takes a Kansas to a Big 12 title or a Missouri to an SEC title in football. And there's that storm. There's a reason why Milwaukee hasn't ever won. Okay, they've never won in baseball. Right, so
and right now they have a nice little team, and if you're in the National League and you have a nice team, the Dodgers are sitting there, and they ain't going away.
Right, because they're smart and rich.
Right, both.
But my point to that is, like we can poo-poo away the successes all you want, right? But I think he had a vision for the team, and I think it performed for 5 years exactly like it should. And that was 3 winning seasons, a 500 season, and a just below 500 season with 2 playoffs, but able to do damage once they were there.
Right.
And so I would want to know, well, what's the vision now, right? And I do think, when you say I give them more credit for it, but I give them all the blame for how long it took and how long it's taking right now. And if they were to look back and something that I think has to be acknowledged, the mistakes that were made that have helped lead him to here were, one, clearly mistaken drafting.
Right.
Okay. Obviously, there were issues there. I had somebody around the team tell me, it was like in 18 was when Dayton Moore took back over the draft. And I was like, what do you mean took it back over? Like they're like, well, that's when he really got hands-on again. Well, what was he doing? And I do wonder, the baseball academy and the different things he was doing around town, was that diverting his attention?
Or was he somebody who said, I have good people in place, I'm going to let them do their job, and then said,
I think definitely that was part of it.
You screwed it up.
I think definitely that was part of it. And so their drafting has been better of late, okay? Particularly with Prado coming back on this year, that's making that look better.
Well, they still have to see the fruit of it at the major league level.
The indications are
right,
better.
Sure.
You know, young pitchers do struggle, so we don't need to freak out that Daniel Lynch wasn't,
right.
You know, Roy Halladay.
Wouldn't it be nice?
It would be nice. It would be nice, and they are due for a guy to come up. And I do think that they need to acknowledge some problems in their development because it never seems to happen with them, and they have not developed enough pitching. And so I'm all for that. If we want to, you'll get no argument from me.
I guess my whole point was you're truncating the length of time it's been since they've been back. But even if you just give them,
and that's fine.
Even if you just give them 16 and 17 and say that was okay. Now we're on 4 years of them stinking. Stink.
And I think that's fine, and I'm glad there's someone like you and others to voice the other side from me, because I wouldn't want just my voice to be the one telling the owner. Like, I think there needs to be somebody being like, that wasn't good enough, right? I look at it a little bit different, but that's fine. I won't spend any time, arguing. We'll just say, okay, we just have a little bit different view of it.
Absolutely.
But I think the things that have to be acknowledged that to me have not been acknowledged publicly, which they're not going to be publicly because they're not going to be good, is number one, and I said this at the time, and I'll come back to it. The Alex Gordon signing was a much bigger disaster than anybody wants to admit around here, mostly because the fans wanted it. So the fans don't really get pissed about that one. Well, they wanted Alex Gordon, and it's great, and we had him. Well, he sucked.
Right.
Throughout that contract, he was grossly overpaid. A defensive whiz in left field is not that big a deal.
No.
So, and he really didn't hit much at all the entire contract.
Right. He hit so poorly that when he sort of made a little bit of a comeback and was maybe cracking 700 in OPS, it was like a parade was being held.
Gordo's hitting again
Gordo's
now.
back.
Left fielders have 800 OPSs like in tough years. Okay? That was because what I said at that time was, if this contract prevents you, and there's no hard evidence that it did, but it certainly contributed, if it prevents you from re-signing Mike Moustakas and Eric Hosmer, it is an unmitigated disaster. Now, I don't know what all went on, and dealing with Scott Boras can't be easy because they have now gone, after boldly, we're going to draft, he's got some of the best players, so we're going to draft Boras clients. When was the last time they did?
Right.
Suddenly, miraculously, after always drafting Boras guys, they don't go anywhere near him now.
Well, they also have slightly lower picks, and Boras is not.
That's true. Fair point. Fair point. Could be coincidence.
Right.
But they should have, when they were putting a contract in front of Gordon, should have been overpaying at the time for large extensions for Moustakas and Hosmer. And had they done that, they would now be well under market cost. And how much better would this team be if Moustakas and Hosmer were manning those spots? And I know what everyone's going to say, well, I've seen Hosmer's numbers. They don't blow you away. Well, yeah, but you wouldn't be chasing Carlos Santana. They're Santana-like. His numbers are very similar.
Yes.
Right? And you would have a sense of the guys. And he's a leader. Moustakas was a fan favorite and a red ass. And I think the team could use a little bit of that because they are definitely soft. The manager basically calls him soft like every other week.
Right.
And they wouldn't be soft with his feisty ass in there.
No.
And so to me, not getting that done, that like we paid Gordon because he's a swell guy and he lifts a lot of weights and he never
leads by example.
Yeah, my ass. Okay, and so that was.
Can you imagine that? As
you were in that clubhouse. Did you see any leadership ever?
No. As an aside, I think most baseball players would look at Alex Gordon and say, "I ain't doing all that." I mean, there's an example of what I'm not going to do. Okay, I'll work a little harder, but that's out of control.
I am not anti.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not anti great family men at all. So take this statement the right way. because he's a great family guy.
Yep.
And I appreciate that, and that has value and would have value in my clubhouse because I think there is a way to represent an organization, and I will give him that. And he absolutely represented this organization as well as anybody could. All right, but his workouts were a little too Tim Tebow-ish, right? Tim Tebow flipping tractor tires. You're a quarterback, not a defensive end.
Right.
Go throw the ball. Go elongate your arm. Tom Brady's doing yoga. He's not flipping tractor tires.
Right. He doesn't look good at the beach. We've seen pictures.
Yes, and Alex Gordon was out there training for football. That's great. He lifts a lot of weights, and I'm sure it was tailored around baseball and all that. What other baseball player looked like that?
Not many.
Not many. All right, so I think that this organization has to recognize signing the swell guy didn't work. And they got to decide, are they committed to winning or are they putting together the swell guy club?
Right. Did they evaluate Hunter Dozier in part because they felt like he was a quality individual? I mean, in too large a part. Or did they evaluate him as a baseball player? That's added value. Being a good guy's added value. You had Mike Moustakas on your team, okay? I mean, so what you got was productive baseball.
Right.
He was a pain in the ass.
The ball player part has to come first.
I think there was a little bit of having those guys were more along the Delta Ta Delta line, right? Than they were,
right? Yes. Absolutely.
Like, hey, what time's Bible study? Okay. And maybe that didn't sit with the organization. I don't know. They made a strong run at Hosmer, right? And Hosmer certainly was always, but everybody, there's a video out there, you Google it, of Hos maybe needing a little help exiting a local establishment, right? I mean, he could get after it with the fellas, but I mean, this team could use a little get out. I will still tell you that the not passing the COVID protocols is not helping this team. Like not being stuck in your hotel room when 23 other major league teams are all back out, hanging out. I'm sorry, chasing the gals, doing whatever ball clubs do on the road, and they're watching.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they haven't cleared the protocols. They can't leave the hotel.
Wow.
Not just the guys who haven't, the whole squad. That's how baseball's doing it. They're not leaving. They have travel protocols that other teams don't.
So they have a
85%.
Larger
you have to get to 85%,
right,
and they're not there.
So they have several players who will not get vaccinated.
That's right, and I've been told that there are issues with that. There are people like, really? Would you just go get the shot so I don't have to? Well, you can't go to dinner with your family on the road. Your family comes out. Nope.
It's bad enough we're taking L's almost every night. We got to stay in the hotel and watch.
That's what I said. Like
Sports Center.
Let's go out and chase the slump buster. Sorry, folks, that's the baseball mindset. Let's go get some drinks. Hey, you know what? We got an off day tomorrow. We are all going out, and we're going to see who can drink the most, and we're going to drink away the street.
Whatever kind of release is necessary.
Or whatever it is you do, you can't go do it.
We're going to go play golf and drink beer all day.
Right. Nope. And now listen, I don't know that I'm not sure every single one of the different rules and everything that come with it, but I know that they're not past the protocol. That's why you see Cal Eldred with the, any other pitching coach you see going out still wearing a mask?
No,
I've seen.
So, but anyway, there's that element. But I'll even set that aside just because God forbid we actually be able to discuss anything without everybody's panties stuck halfway up their yang.
You're right. Well, yeah, you're right. But you're in a group setting where it's just part of being a teammate.
Yeah,
just think of it that way. Okay, I don't really like this idea, but that it's going to be good for our team.
Yeah.
Well, I don't care about instead of. I don't want to get the vaccine, and I don't care about leaving the hotel. I'm fine with getting my rest.
We got no problem cheating with sticky stuff and steroids, but whoa. What this, it just doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. It's fine. But I'm telling you, I think that they need to acknowledge that. They don't have to do it publicly, but if they don't behind doors go, okay, here are the mistakes we made, guys. There was no reason to be signing Gordo, okay? We should have waved goodbye, and that would have been money we could have put towards Moustakas and Hosmer, because what he did, I mentioned at the time, Dexter Fowler signed for a fraction of the money and was a better player. And he was available at that time. Because I had a guy call me and go, hey, you always say it, if not him, then who? Who should it have been instead of Gordon? I said, well, I would have signed Dexter Fowler. The Cardinals got him for like 3 years, like $12 million or something.
Right.
Maybe it was 3 years, $25 million or something, but it wasn't 60. Right? And so that, to me, then led to the chain of events that they couldn't get to. Because if you could have
signed for 80,
was it 80?
Wasn't it 4 for 80? I think
it was up there, whatever it was.
I think it was longer than 3 years.
Look at what that was.
Anyway,
I was thinking it was 4 for 60, but maybe it was 80. Yeah, I think it was upwards of $20 million. But that deal was awful.
It was.
And if you had had that money,
and even if you couldn't have signed Hosmer,
no, but I see. But that's the thing is, I think
you could have got signed somebody else.
I think the plan was to get them both. They're buddies. They like playing together. And hey, not only are we signing you, we're signing your buddy. You guys, we're not leaving you alone. No one's going to be Mike Sweeney again, the only guy making any money, and we're going to put a bunch of chum around you, right? We're going to sign both you guys. And here we go. And they blew it. And this team would be significantly better. All the other pieces fit better. Hunter Dozier, if he's a utility guy playing around, fits better. You know, Witt at second and
all the time.
Anybody else, you maybe then you have no problem not chasing Mondesi, waiting around for this forever, because you've got two iconic players in Royals history on each side of the infield. And who knows, maybe they actually pressure him to go ahead and play. Mike Moustakas would look over and be like, you're kidding, you're out? Right. I watched Mike Moustakas' reaction when Sal Perez told him. I was there the day they announced the first contract with Perez. It was like 4 years, $9 million or whatever it was. And Salvy's sitting at a stool and he's looking at his phone, and Moose comes in and goes, you signed a deal? He's like, yeah. And it was like everyone was kind of out, and there was just a couple of us in there, and he's like, how much? He's like, 9. And he's like, he even looked like, what? Like, you're kidding. Like, he had the exact same reaction we all did. Like, you are kidding. He signed this? He gave him that look, right? Mike Moustakas, if anybody ain't giving it all, would have no problem saying that to somebody. And again, maybe one day I'm going to hear the story about why he is this boogeyman that had to go. But I don't get it.
They brought him back, so.
Well, right. So, but again, still, I'm going to find out. I think if they'd have said, we're going to sign both of you and gotten a deal done with both of them, they'd be here, and the pieces of this team fit together a lot better. And it's never going to work if you don't have a plan to get some guys signed that are really anchor guys. And I'm glad Dozier signed. I think one day he'll hit. If he doesn't, then it's a terrible deal. I have no problem with the deal when they signed it, so I'm not going to act like, oh, boo-hoo now. But, man, it looks a lot better next to Hosmer and Moustakas in that lineup. And a Hosmer, Moustakas, Perez in that mix. It doesn't bottom out this bad. You give some protection to young guys to come up and hit. You know, there's a pedigree beyond just Salvi. There's an English pedigree. Hosmer was always a very valuable piece, connecting the English and Spanish sides of the clubhouse. They blew it. That Gordon signing should have been announcing those two guys being signed.
Yeah, if they could have. When we don't, maybe it was impossible with Hosmer, but it seems like, you know, what they could have got him, they just would have had to match the price.
Well, they were offering 5 for $100, and they lost to what, 6 for $140 or something.
7 on Hosmer.
Yeah,
6 for $130 or something like that.
Supposedly they were in it to 100, and the Padres took it out to like 130, 140, whatever it was. But if you'd have offered what you offered 2 years later, 2 years before, he would have signed it in a heartbeat.
8 for $144.
8 for $144. Whatever their last offer was, I guarantee you, 2 years before, 3 years before. Right, because he left after 17. After 14, he would have signed on to whatever you were offering over 8 years. He would have taken $100 million over 8 years. Don't you think?
Yes.
And I think Moustakas would have taken, $80 million over 8 years, or whatever the market was. They weren't willing to do it. And that has to change.
Well, in Hosmer's case, most Boris clients do play it out.
They do.
So we don't know that he would have taken it. But it's. I think Hosmer might have said, sorry, I'm taking it.
If they had $100 million for him, what was Gordon's deal?
4 for $72.
Okay. If they had the 72 prorated out to add on to whatever they offered Hosmer, they had enough to keep Hosmer.
That is true. Yeah, there have been just a cavalcade of mistakes, and just to be a wise ass, don't think I'm reaching into my wallet to slap down some money on the U.S. Olympic baseball team, which Bubba Starling was just named to today.
I don't like beating up on the local guy.
I know that's mean, but I was like, wow,
it's accurate.
That's our squad. Maybe it's an initial 30-man roster or something. I don't know. Yeah. Whatever.
It looked pretty rough when I was looking at it. One of the guys in consideration for the number 5 is Scott Kazmir, who's 37 years old. So I don't think
Isn't
it's going to be
pitching in Italy or something.
Maybe I don't know.
He's on the squad?
He's on the squad.
Are we sure this isn't like the softball team?
No, it's definitely the baseball team. They're just not going to be good.
Wow. I mean, you're going to get your ass kicked. I mean, Cuba, those guys all stay there, except for the guys who can really swim. Or can construct a nice raft.
That's
actually usually they defect, but when
they have to defect to another country. They usually are not leaving the island. They're playing somewhere.
Right,
they just throw the overcoat on in the crowd and
right.
matriculate out into the crowd.
Right.
There's an agent there waiting to whisk them off.
Stupid stereotypical joke, but yes, usually it's when they're playing ball in this country or
you
or
run
Canada.
down a list of players. You're just like,
let's hear it real quick.
I'll catch it. Tim Fedorowicz.
Fedorowicz. Yeah, he's been around.
I recognize the name.
Mark Kolasvari.
No.
Nope.
Nick Allen. Eddie Alvarez.
Wasn't Nick Allen an intern here?
Could be. Eddie Alvarez. Tristan Casas. Todd Frazier. Heard of him. Jamie Westbrook. That's the infielders. Outfielders. That says a 2-field.
Jamie Westbrook may have been a Royal. I may have seen him on a Royals 40 once.
To be fair, I guess, I mean, it is in season.
Yeah, that's true. Outfield, Tyler Austin, Eric Filia, Patrick Kivlahan, Bubba Starling. Utility, Jack Lopez. Pitchers, Shane Baz, Anthony Carter, not the former Michigan receiver, Brandon Dixon, Anthony Gose, Edwin Jackson, Scott Kazmir, Nick Martinez, Scott McGough, David Robertson, Joe Ryan, Ryder Ryan, no idea, Simeon Woods Richardson, and Dalton Woods. No.
KU quarterback Dalton Woods.
It is an easy punch line, but to be fair, again, it's an in-season event.
Yeah.
But
they could take a pause on the baseball season every 4 years. I think we're going to be like, really? I remember when we were pissed that they took baseball out of the Olympics.
Right.
We may be like, why did we fight so hard to get this back in?
Right.
We're not going to commit.
Either that or
be able to commit to it.
Yeah, if we're going to not commit to it, I mean that team's going to get destroyed.
You would think that the Cuban team and
right,
Japan probably better.
I don't know if Japan takes time off.
I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? We'll see.
You would think in their home country they might make it some amends, but anyway.
All right, let's take a break.
Just bring a guy in for a day. That you could really. They're in Japan. You can just say, "Hey, Taguchi, you're not starting for the Latte Lions today.
Go over to
the other complex
the national team
for today.
Pull a guy out of the game. You're pinch hitting in 2 innings. Get over there. Crosstown bus is waiting for you.
Right, we need some power.
Yeah. All right, we'll take a break. Danny Klinkskill's with us, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing, eastonroofing.com. Joe Spiker and his great team will be happy to take care of you the way they took care of Danny's roof, the way they took care of my roof. Finding out exactly what you need. Sometimes you only need a repair. There's a reason why Easton Roofing says integrity matters, getting you back to business, getting you back to life faster. That's Easton Roofing. Go online to eastonroofing.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors, offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
All right, the Good Sense end of the hour answer before Fernando Tatis Jr., who was the last Padres position player to start an All-Star game.
Tony Gwynn? Ken Caminiti?
Tony Gwynn.
Okay.
1998.
It's not even hard.
Wow.
Could you challenge me?
I know.
It's pathetic. Good Sense.
3 years.
Easily mine. I'm winning Good Sense. GoodSenseSubs.com. You can get 10% back if you're part of the loyalty club, Danny. Did you know that?
I did. I've heard you say it.
It's a great deal. It's nothing better than getting up there and you're like, oh, I got $230 off. Nice. I burn it every time. I'm not like a save it. I just take the savings every time. It's the best way to go, I think. But, do it however you want. GoodSenseSubs.com. Locally owned and operated. Founded right here in Lenexa, Kansas. That is your neighborhood Good Sense. Look for it tonight on your way home, this afternoon if you're hungry. Now 30% more meat on the sandwich as well. Take advantage of that. Danny Klinkskills here, brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. You're a big fan of the hot dog eating contest?
I am not.
Why? Because you're un-American?
It's gross.
You don't like competition?
It makes me ill to watch
What is gross about it?
We were discussing this off the air. I might be entertained. I'm not guaranteeing I'd be entertained, but I might be entertained if they just had to eat hot dogs conventionally, not stuff them in a bowl of water and grossly maneuver what is no longer a hot dog in my estimation into their craw. And
baseball would be better if they didn't put all the pine tar on the bat. They didn't have all that. Oh, it's just terrible. Football players should not be able to tape their ankles, or they should be out there playing like the
it's
true
a hot
athletes
dog
that they
eating
are.
contest. It's not a soggy bun water contest. It's disgusting. I mean, it is.
In what way?
I mean, the bun is no longer. They are no longer eating anything you would want to eat.
The hot dog, the actual hot dog. I'd still want to eat the hot dog.
But in the form that you were doing it, it no longer has any appeal.
I'm with you on that. Dip it in water and here, eat this. Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I don't think. Here,
I'll agree with you on that.
Come on over.
Hot dogs are often cooked in water, so the water does nothing to the hot dog. The hot dog is fine.
But they're usually dried off.
I don't want mush bun, but that's just to.
It's a tactic.
The art of being the best that they can be. It's something that they have to do, and they're willing to do it.
They're sacrificing, Danny.
No question.
For the art, for the craft.
That's right. For the competition.
I'm not saying they're not wise. They clearly eat more dogs than they would if they just had to sit there and snap them up regular style.
In any competitive sport ever, is there anyone more dominant than the great Joey Chestnut? No one has dominated their competition the way Joey Chestnut
How long
has.
did Kobayashi have the record?
Didn't
he win several years in a row?
He won several in a row. There's actually a great ESPN 30 for 30 on that. There is, seriously. It's not really about the hot dog eating. It's about how racist people were towards him and why he ultimately ended up backing away, and then the financial parts behind the scene and everything. It's actually, it's a quite compelling. Yeah, it's a very sad story about why he wasn't in it anymore.
Right. If this is how little interest I have in it now, if you asked me who won last year, I might have said Kobayashi. That's how out of touch.
The great Joey Chestnut.
I know.
Kobayashi won.
I know now that I've been reminded, but I pay so little attention, and maybe it's just the fact that he wins all the time, so I've kind of forgotten about it. But anyway.
Kobayashi won 6 straight years, 01 to 06. Chestnut won for the first time in 07 and has won every year except for 2015, where Matt Stoney won.
Yeah, Matt Stoney.
So one of the greatest upsets in the history of sports,
it was.
clearly.
Stony Toad.
It's a fitting nickname for a competitive eater.
Stony?
Last name, I guess.
Toad.
Yeah.
There's got to be some aspect of it that Chestnut is so good that, I mean, this is an appealing sport. I mean, unless you're the very best, you're not going to make a lot of money at it. So the field has probably been thinned over the years of the quality dog eaters that he's going to have to conquer to win. Because now he's got to be up there. I mean, he's up there. He can't be as good as
he's 37
as he was at one time.
He was.
I don't know. I think he set the record last year.
But he seemed like somebody else would, be able to.
It seems like that, and that's what history tells us is happening, is that eventually the greats are overtaken. He is not, which makes him even greater.
Not saying that he doesn't belong on the Mount Rushmore of hot dog eating.
Shouldn't he be on a Wheaties box?
It's too healthy.
Well, I guess.
Yeah, Wheaties are just a.
They used
just
to
a
be
bowl
12
of
minutes.
milk.
Exactly my point.
It was 12 minutes up until 2008 was the first time. They dropped it to 10. I didn't know it was 12 minutes before. All the Kobayashis were in 12.
And what was Kobayashi putting up number-wise?
His first title in 01, he was 50, 50 and a half, 44 and a half, 53.
He's now doing
49.
75 in 10 minutes.
Yeah, Chestnut, when he first took the title, jumped the record from 53 and a half to 66.
Has anybody smashed a world record like that?
Ruth?
Probably Babe Ruth, but
about it.
That's about it.
yeah.
When he out-homered every other team.
But that was in the dark ages.
Bobby Orr.
In the modern world,
Bobby Orr.
nobody has done what he has done. I'd like that recognized. I would like that recognized. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about Frank Clark and the Chiefs, what to do with them, what's going to be the right path for them. Danny Clinkscale's with us. He's brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters, whether it's your home or your business. More than 1,000 jobs done last year. Locally owned and operated, this family business, 4 straight years. Voted Best of Houses Award winner. Angie's List Super Service Award winner as well. Check out their Google reviews. Don't forget, financing. If you need financing, more financing options available with Easton Roofing for your home or business than anywhere else. Call Easton Roofing today, 913-257-5426, online at eastonroofing.com.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing. And Joe, there's all kinds of roofing companies in Kansas City. People see their trucks, they see their ads, they see their commercials on TV. What separates you out from the pack?
Danny, you know, there's a lot of roofers in Kansas City that are good roofers that can put a good roof on, but we like to pride ourselves on giving you a good customer service experience. From the first time you call, you're going to get a friendly voice on the phone. We're going to let you know what's happening and when it's happening. And, you know, the other piece is some companies are small enough to do small jobs. Some companies are big enough to do big jobs. You know, we're right there in the middle. We can handle the little stuff. We can handle your repairs all the way up to your big commercial roofs.
So what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you at Easton Roofing?
You can find us at eastonroofing.com, or you can always call us at 913-257-5426. That's 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters.
You're listening to the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Danny Clinkscale is in. It's brought to you by our friends at Easton Roofing. Project manager at every site, happy to do repairs. They will walk you through, give you every possible solution to whatever your roofing, guttering, insulation needs are. Call Joe Spiker and his team at 913-257-5426. Online at eastonroofing.com. Danny, Frank Clark. How does it play out?
Well, I think the Chiefs aren't going to do anything with him. I think he's going to get suspended, and I think it's probably, to me, I think he probably should get suspended a little longer than most people perhaps think.
Tim Grunhard said he talked to somebody who was in and around the league for a long, long time, and they thought he was getting 8 games.
That sounds about right to me. If you do the same offense, which is a pretty serious offense, twice within a couple of months, in a time when, in the community that we're talking about, gun violence is really a gigantic issue. It is everywhere, but Kansas City has all kinds of problems with it. And, it's just brazen activity. We didn't even, it's amazing, except for Sam. I mean, we didn't even know about the first one. Mm-hmm. That's good reporting. I don't know what happened at the good job by Frank and his agent, I guess.
I think getting arrested in L.A. helped. Like, if it was in L.A., you're not checking the police blotter in L.A. every day if you're on a beat in Kansas City.
Probably. Right, but the NFL is such a national thing.
That's true.
You would.
Somebody's checking the L.A. police blotter. They'd be like, Frank Clark. That is kind of a common name, though.
It is. That's true. But anyway, kudos to Sam. By the way, he's a great guest.
Quite dry.
Don't you think that would appeal to me?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm not arguing. We don't put him on because we think he sucks.
So I think the Chiefs are going to ride out whatever suspension it is and make a decision on Frank Clark after the season. I can't imagine them. I mean, what in their track record under this ownership group and under this coach indicates that they're going to, they're a team, one of the teams in the NFL, I'd say that's probably near the top of the list at taking chances on people. And, sometime.
Well, I think that's a legitimate question is, do they have too many my guys?
Right.
For this to work. Like, I think Patrick Mahomes may cover it up for a while, but, the one thing I'll say, and I want to hear what happens, does he get convicted? Is there a plausible, they say it's the bodyguard's gun. Okay, let's see. Why was it still in your car? Why didn't you notice? I want to hear what Frank Clark has to say, and I presume we'll get that at St. Joe.
Or just why you didn't look in the back seat and go, hey, Bill, or whatever his bodyguard.
I don't look in the back seat of my car every day. I can completely understand not knowing what's in your back seat if someone else left it there. There's a cup in the back seat cup holder of my car, and my little one hadn't been in that car in 3 weeks.
Right.
If you hung out with someone that you knew had guns, you might be more likely to check in the backseat.
And especially if they're the one that got me pinched months ago. Yes, I agree. Listen, I am not defending the activity.
Right.
You've got to be in. It would be dumb on my part if it was found in my car, right? It would be a mistake. I know no one who carries firearms with them, right? So but if I did, I'd be like, dude, what are you doing? I've had sketch people in my life.
Right.
And there are times I've had to be like, dude, I'm not going there. So, yes, I'm not excusing Frank Clark of any responsibility. I do want to hear it out. I think we all, it's just, it's too easy. The Tyreek Hill thing, and we talked about this earlier, Mike Florio announced he would never cover another down of the NFL. He would quit covering the NFL if Tyreek Hill played another down. He's still covering the NFL. Right. That was a dumb statement. Number one, he obviously is a crap talker,
right?
Because he clearly makes that statement all the time when he thinks he's probably in pretty good shape on making it, but he's not really going to back it up, right? Like when you say I'll swim to whatever, I would never say that, right? I mean, I would have to absolutely 100% no.
I'm glad I didn't say I'll swim to the Dominican over the
Phil Mickelson.
16 seed, or Phil Mickelson.
16, yeah, exactly. But my point is, things can look like, okay, listen, we don't need to wait because this is so obvious. It's never that obvious. And so, but the one thing that I think is clear is that the Chiefs were asked, and this comes back to the Herm Edwards, my guys, you got to watch and look after. And he said you can have two of them. And it comes back to that from the standpoint that, you answered a lot of questions about Frank Clark's past. And while he has not repeated that, he has continued to show an error in judgment. And he has not been a strong player.
Especially for the money. I mean, if he was just a guy on your team, he's a good player. But he certainly hasn't been great. And
if you were making Alex Okafor money, it would have been a fine signing. But a first and a second and $120 million in cap room, no.
Oh, and the good side is he saved his best football for the postseason. Say that.
Listen, I don't think we'll ever hate the deal because he was part of winning a championship and he played well down the stretch in that. So I don't know that they win without him. Right. So that's always going to make that. That's not going to be a benefit. Just like Alex Gordon, the fans aren't real pissed because he was part of that championship team. And they won a championship in the first year of that deal in 15.
And if he doesn't hit the home run, they may well lose.
That game, I don't think they were losing that series ever to the Mets.
They came darn close to losing that series anyway.
It was 4-1.
I know, with a closer who hadn't blown a save in 6 months, blowing 3.
They were the kind of team to do it. I
agreed.
I don't want to go back to that.
Anyway,
I don't want to go through that.
But I will say that Gordon's home run certainly mighty significant.
Of course it was.
Iconic.
Yes.
And somewhat
yes,
the equivalent
but
of
to
what
your
Frank
point,
Clark
yes,
did.
absolutely. Yes, it absolutely is the equivalent to Frank Clark. I mean, there's a strong case people would say, well, if you had the first and the second and the $120 million, you'd have had 3 players and you wouldn't have needed to come back. right? They wouldn't have gotten to 20. You'd have held them to 7, right? Fair point, right? That money. I've gone back to that draft. I mean, Jeremy Chin was one of the draft picks that was traded away. And he's one of the best defensive players, or there's a pretty damn good defensive player out there. That was the second-round pick. That's what that was used on. That was used on the next year. It was a 2020 draft pick. But the first-round pick, there was plenty of guys that could have been added. Oh, and by the way, you could have signed Zadarius Smith for half the price. And so you could have had about 3 good players for 1. Anyway, point being.
Right.
But, you know, I do think that the takeaway needs to be that, like, every guy that has a past but appears to be really good is not worth going and getting. And I think if there's something, you know, Brett Veach needs to learn, it's like you don't need every cookie at the cookie store. You got to start buying the right ones. And that was an extension. They certainly don't need to do that ever again.
Right.
Now that they've got the trophy and they're on a free roll here for at least 5 or 6 years.
Absolutely. And they have the ultimate eyewash in your quarterback. And they can win with a slightly lesser team. You don't want to have a slightly lesser team, or maybe you want to have a more balanced team, but you don't have to have 11 stars and then nobody else.
Right.
I don't know how, real frankly, they're pulling it off, but we'll see.
Well, they're paying for it.
Well,
I mean, because there's no replacement coming for him.
Right.
They don't have the money.
But also, most of these teams are now banking on the fact that there's going to be this monstrous salary cap increase.
Oh, and they are too.
Right.
And they need it.
They do.
I mean, you look at what they have signed, they need it, no doubt.
Absolutely.
Danny, great stuff, buddy. Appreciate it, man. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too.
This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Easton Roofing, the presenting sponsor of Kansas City Profiles at the Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Easton Roofing, where integrity matters.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Kling Scale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new.